So we've talked about inequalities and how we graph them, how we write inequalities from graphs, what they mean, what words mean what symbols. So today what we're going to do is we're actually going to focus on the math part, and this is where it's going to be like solving an equation. So the only difference between an inequality and an equation is that you have a symbol, you have an inequality symbol instead of an equals sign. So if we look at this first problem, x plus 2 is greater than 3. Imagine if it said x plus 2 equals 3. Well, we learned from solving equations that we'd have to undo adding 2 by subtracting it. And my answer would be x equals 1. Well, it's the same thing here. I have the same objective. I want to get my variable all by itself. I want to know what things work for plugging in for the variable. So we're going to subtract 2 from both sides, just like we did before. I'm left with x and 1, and I just bring down my symbol. And what this means is any number more than 1 will work in this inequality. And try it out. 2 is more than 1. 2 plus 2 is more than 3. That is true. So if I try a number less than 1, let's say 0. 0 plus 2 is greater than 3. Well, that's false. So only numbers more than 1 will work. Let's try the next tip. So I want to divide both sides of my inequality by 3. I'm going to bring down my symbol. And 9 divided by 3 is 3. So any number less than 3 can be substituted in for x. When I do the last problem, I'm simply going to add 5. So any number greater than 7. Whatever x is, it has to be more than 7 in order for this to be true. So give the next 3 a try. I'm going to do them slowly, but you can do them at your own pace. When you're done, go ahead and check your answers with mine. I got x is less than 4, x is less than negative 3, and x is greater than 0. What we're going to do this time is we're going to solve the inequalities and then we're going to graph our answers. So go ahead and go through and solve them quick. You should have gotten the following solutions: P is less than 6, T is greater or equal to 8, and Y is less than 4. Now when we go to graph these, because you're going to have to be able to construct your own number lines, what I always do is I take my number answer and I put it in the middle. And if you'd like, you can put a number on either side of it. It's not necessarily required. And when I graph this, it's an open circle because there's no underline, and it goes to the left. This one will be a closed circle because of the underline, and it goes to the right. And this is an open circle, goes to the left. All right, go ahead and try 4, 5, and 6. If you get stuck, you can kind of see what I'm doing and go from there. Now, number 5, you want to be careful. It is saying minus a negative 6. That's the same thing as just adding regular 6. And in number 6, the key is realizing the letter C is being divided by 2. So we're going to undo that by multiplying by 2. And then these 2's just become 1's. And so we'll go graph our answers. Double check your graphs, see if they look like mine. Make sure you know whether to fill in the circle or not. So solving an inequality is basically the same as solving an equation. Just instead of an equal sign, we have a symbol. But there is one special rule that makes this a little trickier, and that is if you multiply or divide at any point by a negative number, you must reverse the inequality symbol. So I know that there's an example here, but we're going to skip that for now. I want to go to the y and see what's going on. So we have a statement that says 2 is less than 3, and I'm just going to write that down here. So what we're going to do now is we're going to multiply. This is true, by the way. We're going to multiply both sides by negative 2. Remember, you're allowed to do whatever you want to one side as long as you do it to the other side. It's not changing the problem. So I would get negative 4 over here and negative 6 over here. And if I were to just bring down my sign, it would no longer be a true statement. Negative 4 is not smaller than negative 6. If I look at a number line, Up here would be 0. Negative 4 is closer to 0 than negative 6. So negative 4 is actually bigger. So if you multiply or divide by a negative, because the rules of negatives makes our signs flip, we must also flip our inequality symbol. Now it's a true statement. So let's go up here and we'll try to apply that rule to this problem. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide by negative 4. Just like I would in a normal problem. When I go to write my answer, because I divided by a negative, this symbol needs to be reversed. So numbers less than negative 6 will make this problem true. I want you to go ahead and add a second example. And we're going to be doing some more work with these. I want you to write 30 is less than negative 5n. So right away I need to be careful because my letter is on the right side of the symbol, and we always want our letters on the left side. So we'll have to keep in mind that at the very end we need to do the swap flip trick. So to get n alone, we need to divide by negative 5. But because I divided by a negative, I have to flip my sign around in my answer. 30 divided by negative 5 is negative 6. And I'm very close to being done. Now I'm ready to do the swap flip trick because I want my letter on the other side. So I've swapped places and flipped my sign. This is my answer. Numbers less than negative 6 will work in this problem. It's really important that you don't try to, let's say, take your variable, move it over, and flip your sign and try to do it all in one step. It's not going to work. You need to take it one step at a time, just like I've done here. Get your n or your variable by itself. Don't move it until the very last step. The very last step, you're going to do the swap or the swap flip trick. All right. If you had tried to take n, put it on the left, and flip your sign around and write your answer, you can see these are not the same answer. So don't do that.